He always got off work in the evening. When he arrived at his apartment it was usually dark, with the exception of those days in June when the sun would go down around 9:30 p.m. At first he hadn't paid it no mind. It was on his daily route to and from work. So everything passing outside of his car windows was a blur. Routine, with the few exceptions that you could not avoid. Like street work, or an accident here and there. Even as it happened, he didn't give it much thought. He has seen it before, and at different locations. To him they were something that occurred normally. On a rainy night 2 miles from his home, a few yards before the intersection, as he approached and slowed for the changing traffic light, he saw that a street lamp on his right hand shut itself off, bringing its surrounding area back into darkness. The traffic light changes to green, so he continues on. A mile down the road he has a slight feeling of déjà vu. Remembering that the night before that he had seen the same street lamp had shut itself off. Brushing it off as coincidental, he drove home. The next day during a lunch break he remembered the strange thing about the street lamp. He planned it in his mind to keep an eye out for it tonight to see if it would occur again. On the drive home he remembered. Before approaching the intersection he slowed down his vehicle, clearly missing an opportunity to take advantage of a green light. Within 5 feet from the street lamp it shuts itself off. Puzzled, strange, he thought. Waited for the traffic light to change. When it did he drove on. From his rearview mirror he watched as the dark patch behind lit up. Next day on that same evening it happened again. All night at home he thought about it, trying to find some kind of rational excuse for what was going on. No way it could be him. He never believed in the supernatural, ESP, or any of that mambo jumbo. Maybe it was his car, maybe vibrations from the engine, or some kind of electrical frequency that the wiring of the car was emitting would trigger the street lamp to shut off. The following day, after work, he approached it without his car. A block and a half from the intersection he parked his car. Shut it off, turn on the emergency lights, lock the driver's side door. All the other doors were already locked. He walked towards the intersection, staying close to the curb. Traffic would pass him from both directions, shining their headlights on the solitary figure walking along the road, 30 feet from the lamp. He stopped and watched it for a while, took smaller steps trying to calculate the point where the light might go off, pausing for somehow he is getting it to turn off. Walking back to his car, off in the distance, he stops. Turns around as the street lamp relights itself, giving off a weak light at first, then getting brighter. He tries again, not waiting this time for traffic to move away. The light turns off, walks away, and does it again 2 more times, including when he drove past it. Now all he needs are witnesses. During the lunch break at work, he confided in a coworker, who had over the years become a good friend. "You know that is pretty strange," said his coworker. "But you know everyone has something unique about them. Take me for instance. I don't get traffic tickets. I could be hauling ass down the interstate 20 miles over the speed limit, not even thinking about it. Somehow slow down for no reason. Then out of nowhere some cop appears. Hell, I could be still driving fast and one will drive right past me. It's like I am immune. I got so many good driving points that if I was drunk and drove into a crowd at a fair, they would still give me an award for being a good driver. Some people are lucky in money and love. You, my friend, your thing is shutting off streetlights. But if I could have it my way, I would rather be lucky in money. I would pay someone else to drive me around. Plus you can always buy love. Well, sort of. Just don't tell my wife, she'll want most of it. Besides, she cost me plenty already," said the friend. He invited his friend to come along to see for himself. His friend refused because he had to go over to his in-laws that night. It was one of their birthdays. His next option was to drag along his girlfriend. They have been seeing each other for about 7 months. Things were going pretty well for them. They were in no rush for any major commitments. She was an understanding person. He calls her. Told her he was going to pick her up after work for dinner. She agreed. They hadn't been out in a while. After dinner, he convinced her to go over to his place. Usually they went to her apartment. Besides, he told her he had something to show her. So she was curious. They stopped and parked the car at the spot he was last night. She asked him, "Why are we stopping here?" "It's here where I wanted you to see it," he said. See what she questioned. Then he explained the whole situation. She just looked at him like he must have gone nuts. "That's impossible," she said. "That's what I thought too." He replied, "Give me a chance, I'll prove to you." "Okay. But why are we stopping here? Why can't I just drive past it?" she asked. "Well, I was hoping you would walk with me. Plus I don't want you to think that maybe it's the car that's doing it," he said. "No, I'm not getting out," she refused. "Is it some kind of trick? Is it?" "No, it's not," he returned. "Just watch." He shut off the engine and headlights. Turn on the emergency blinkers, got out of the car, walked towards the intersection. She watched him as he moved away. Then as he stopped, turned around and waved at her. Continue walking when as a street lamp before the traffic signal shuts off. Within the darkness he disappeared. In a little bit she could make someone walk towards her. Had to be him, but he had stopped. He stood there and waited. She could make him out better as the lights slowly began to come back on. Once bright again. He turned around and walked towards it. A truck was on the opposite end of the intersection waiting for the light to change. It must have had its bright lights on because it gave her boyfriend a certain glow to him. Then again the street lamp went off. This time she could see him because of the truck. Soon the truck drove past and he disappeared again. She didn't know what to make of it all. She just wanted to get out of there. A car pulled up behind her. The flashing color lights came on. "Oh shit, it's the cops," she said out loud. Two of them walk out of their squad car, one on each end with their flashlights aimed inside of the car. She cracks the door open a little bit so the inside light can come on. "It's okay, ma'am, you don't have to step out of the car," said the cop on her side of the car. The other stood by the driver's side looking in. "Is there a problem with your vehicle, ma'am?" asked the officer. "No, it's okay," she said, feeling awkward about the situation. "Where is the driver?" asked the officer. "Well, he's down there. He's my boyfriend," she said. "Did you all have an argument?" questioned the officer. "No, we didn't have a fight." She pauses. "See, this is weird," she said. "Okay, we're listening," says the officer, taking the flashlight off of her. "My boyfriend thinks he can turn off street lamps by being near them," she explained. "He walked over there to show me." "What?" asked the other officer. "Have you two been drinking?" asked the officer on her side. "No, sir, but something did happen. When he walked over there, the light did go off," she told them. "Impossible," said both officers. "I know it sounds strange, but it happened," she told them. "Twice. He came back, stopped waiting for it to come back on, then he walked back to it and it shut off again. That's why it's dark over there." Both officers knew the area well. They knew that there was a light at that location. The one on the driver's side told her, "You know, tampering with city property is a misdemeanor offense." "We didn't do anything, officer," she replied. "Talk to my boyfriend when he gets back," she told him. Sure enough, the officer on her side spotted him walking towards them. He shines his flashlight on him. The other officer followed suit. A little closer, with a big smile, and squinting from the flashlights. He asks them if there are any problems. The streetlight comes back on. "Your girlfriend told us your story. We want to know if you have been tampering with that light to impress you, girl," said the driver's side cop, still smiling and excited that now he had more witnesses. He was down there in the dark looking at the stoplight before he would walk back to the car, when he noticed the flashing lights. "No, sir, I haven't touched that light. I can't explain it, but it happens when I get near the thing." "Let's see your driver's license," asked the passenger side cop. He pulls it out of his wallet and hands it over to him, who is now standing next to the other one. He hands it over to the one from the driver's side, all of them in front of the car, with the exception of the girlfriend who is still sitting in the car. Occasionally a car or so slows by to see what's going on. "I am going to run this on the computer," says the officer with the driver license, before he walks back to the squad car. "Okay, you do that. Me and Mr. Magic is going to check out the lamppost," returns the other one. "Okay, let's take a walk." He walks back to the intersection with the cop. Of course, the light turns off as they approach it. The cop, feeling a little apprehensive, keeps his hand close to his pistol. "You stand there," he tells him before he points his flashlight around the base of the street lamp. The squad car approaches. "Come on," yells the driver. "We got a call that some kid is running red lights. Don't worry about him, he checked out okay. You and your gal should head back home." "I think we had enough excitement for the night," says the officer before he closes the door. And they speed away, walking back with a bigger smile. He notices that she has moved to the driver's side. "Get in," she says. "We're going to my place." He gets in. The car was already in drive as she waited for another car to pass them. She does a U-turn. From the rear view mirror she sees as the light comes back on. "What's with the Colgate smile?" she asks him. He just gives her a bigger grin. On the drive to her place, she teases him at every streetlight they come across, telling him to turn them off. "I can't do all of them, it's just that one." For several nights, he visits the intersection, still trying to figure out the cause, wondering if of the others that must be out there. Could any of them be affected by him? Or maybe only this one. On the weekend, him and his girlfriend go out of town to visit friends. She seems to have forgotten about it. Well, one time she was going to bring it up over dinner, but something distracted her. Mostly he was watching her to see if she would say anything about it. It would be nice to have her on his side for something weird like this. Still, he was afraid that she would team up with them, and he could become the butt of their jokes. So he kept quiet. Monday night after work he returned. There was a change. The light was brighter. It was a new light. The cops must have reported it. He tried to think back of any others that might shut off, ones he could have taken for granted, like this one. If there were more, maybe he could find them, map them. The city was big, there would be a lot of driving to be done.